down at your local game store for some Friday Night Magic. The game's progressing pretty well. Decks are doing their things. Player 3 is getting too far ahead with their AC, Tyrant of Dire Strait deck. So, you do what you have to do. You remove their commander. You feel really good about it, and then it comes right back. Same threat, same problem, and now you're down a card. Here's the reality. Most removal in Commander doesn't actually solve the problem. It just delays the inevitable. So today, we're going to go through the top 10 removal spells that actually deal with commanders. And one of these is way more effective than all the others. Which one? Let's clock in and find out. Hey everyone, I'm Nicole RN with Commander on Call, and welcome back to Deck Diagnosis, the series where we take Commander decks and treat them like patients and make them better. Today, we're diagnosing one of the most common gameplay issues in Commander, ineffective removal. Because in this format, it's not just about removing a threat, it's about removing it properly. In Commander, when a player's commander changes zones, whether that's going from the battlefield to the graveyard, exile, its owner's library, or hand, the owner can instead choose to return it to the command zone. Each subsequent time a commander is cast from the command zone after the first, its owner must pay an additional 2 generic mana in addition to its casting cost. So if your Thrasios Triton hero gets removed 3 times, the 4th time you cast him will cost 3 green, blue, and a commander tax of 6 generic mana. Now, let's get started with the honorable mentions. These are the standard removal suite cards for targeted creature removal in black. They're not flashy, they don't break the color pie, but they do work. Just not for very long against commanders. These are all instants because sorceries are too slow for our purposes here. We have the aptly named Murder. It does just what you think. 1 black to destroy target creature. Infernal Grasp costs 1 and a black to destroy target creature, but you lose 2 life. You can cast Go for the Throat for 1 and a black again to destroy target non-artifact creature. And last, we have the strongest of the honorable mentions with Withering Torment. It's an instant for 2 and a black. It says, destroy target creature or enchantment. You lose 2 life. Black is notoriously terrible at enchantment removal, and this is one of the few tools in its arsenal to deal with some of the most difficult permanents to remove. But none of these compare with any of our top 10. So, let's go. In number 10, we have the blue 1-drops of Pongify and Rapid Hybridization. I chose to group both of these cards together because they're basically the same thing. Pongify is an instant for 1 blue that says, destroy target creature, it can't be regenerated. Its controller creates a 3/3 green 8 creature token. And Rapid Hybridization is an instant for 1 blue mana that says, destroy target creature, it can't be regenerated. That creature's controller creates a 3/3 green frog lizard creature token. 1 makes an 8, 1 makes a frog lizard. Same cost, same color, same speed, same effect. It's cheap, it's efficient, It breaks the color pie, which is pretty great or pretty not, depending on which side of that debate you sit on, which is a conversation for another day. Blue isn't really supposed to be able to remove permanents on the battlefield like that. It excels at removal on the stack, and I guess Wizards decided that giving the removed creature's controller a 3/3 body makes up for the dirt cheap casting cost and ignoring the color pie. Most commanders are creatures, and it's hard to get cheaper than 1 mana. A vanilla 3/3 body doesn't mean much in the grand scheme of a game. These are more than enough to land these 2 spells on my list. In 9th place, we have Swords to Plowshares. This is an instant for just 1 white that says, exile target creature. Its controller gains life equal to its power. Swords to Plowshares is a commander staple for a reason. Like the 2 cards before it, it's dirt cheap. But instead of giving your opponent a body, they gain some life. In a 40 life format like Commander, this life gain is usually trivial. Swords to Plowshares also circumvents Indestructible because it exiles the targeted creature instead of destroying it. You may be wondering why, since Pongify has its sister listed with it, Swords to Plowshares doesn't have to exile sharing the space. Have to exile has the same cost, does the same thing, but the opponent gets a tapped basic land instead of life. These 2 spells are similar, but Swords to Plowshares is much more powerful. I'd rather give my opponent's life over land just about every time. Ramping is one of the most powerful things you can do in the game, and gaining life is not. Next, in at number 8, we have Fell the Profane. This is another instant for 2 black. It will destroy target creature or planeswalker. Yes, this sounds eerily similar to some of our honorable mentions, and it's more expensive to cast. But remember, some planeswalkers can be commanders. They need to be removed too. And aside from that, Fell the Profane is a modal double-faced card, or MDFC, so it has an entirely different card on its back. The reverse is Fellmire, the land that says that taps for 1 black and enters tapped unless you pay 3 life. The selling point of this card is versatility. Kill creatures? Yes. Kill planeswalkers? Yes. Backup option available if you don't have anything good to use it on, so it's not a dead card in your hand. Yes. Able to bounce the land half back to your hand with Golgari Rot Farm to cast a kill spell later? Also, yes. In at number 7 is Observe Stasis. We've left the instance for now. Observe Stasis is an enchantment aura for 3 in the blue. It says, enchant creature an opponent controls. When this aura enters, remove enchanted creature from combat. Then, draw a card for each tapped creature its controller controls. Enchanted creature loses all abilities and can't attack or block. And it has flash, so all that can be done at instant speed. If you target an opposing commander, especially a Voltron commander, you can disrupt a strategy significantly. You're almost guaranteed to draw at least 1 card, but likely more. You take away all abilities of that commander. Activated abilities, triggered abilities, everything. They can't swing, they can't block to try and die, to kill your enchantment and go back to the command zone. They're basically stuck unless someone kills the commander or the enchantment. It feels so good to force an opponent to use their removal on their own commander. Mind control. Who doesn't love it? Probably anyone playing against these two. At number 6, we have Gilded Drake and Empress Galena. I included both because Gilded Drake is on the reserved list and goes for about $200. Empress Galena is much more palatable fiscally. These are also the first and only, spoiler alert, creatures on this list. Gilded Drake is a 3/3 flyer for 1 and a blue that says, when Gilded Drake comes into play, exchange control of Gilded Drake for target creature one of your opponent's controls, or sacrifice Gilded Drake. I would totally trade a 3/3 flyer for your commander. And Empress Galena is a 1/3 legend for 3 blue that has an activated ability for blue and tap Empress Galena to gain control of target legend or legendary permanent. The upside of this is repeatable commander theft, but the downside is that she has to survive long enough to use her ability. And Empress Galena can be your commander herself, a commander stealing commander. Awesome. Theft is an effective form of removal against commanders, since their owners cannot choose to send them to the command zone. They're yours until they change zones again, forcing your opponents to remove their own commanders to get them back. Gilded Drake would be higher on this list if not for its price tag, so they share number 6. Question: what is better than a cheap removal spell? A free removal spell. Number 5 is Deadly Rollick. This is the black cycle of free if you control your commander spells from Commander Masters. Deadly Rollick is an instant for 3 and a black that says if you control a commander, you may cast the spell without paying its mana cost. Exile target creature. Short, sweet, and to the point. Notice how it says if you control a commander, not your commander. Just a tidbit that could be helpful in certain situations. It's a small detail, but an important one that could get you out of a bind one day. I don't really have a ton to say on this one that I haven't said earlier. Exile, good. Next, at number 4, we have Darksteel Mutation. This one is another enchantment aura for 1 and a white that says, enchanted creature is an insect artifact creature with a base power and toughness 0/1 and has indestructible, and it loses all other abilities, card types, and creature types. Imagine Yishap, Sun's avatar, mutating into an indestructible 0/1 bug. The 8 mana investment your opponent paid into to try and cheat out big dinosaurs now is an indestructible bug. You can walk with it all day, but nobody can squish its Darksteel carapace. Every turn that your opponent has a bug instead of a dinosaur as a commander, they fall further and further behind. However, Darksteel Mutation can be a bit of a double-edged sword. Being designated as a commander cannot be taken away. So if you target another player's Nahiri forged in Fury, they can still voltron up their bug and kill you with 21 commander damage from their Darksteel mutated Nahiri. Be careful, don't use it against voltron. In third place, we have another blue instance in Cyclonic Rift. This one costs 1 and a blue to return target non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hands, and has an overload cost of 6 and a blue to change the word target to each. This spell is a game changer for a reason. It's brutal, efficient, versatile, and, as the name suggests, game changing. For a total of 2 mana, you can remove a troublesome permanent temporarily, forcing its owner to recast it next turn. If used against the commander, the owner isn't likely to return it to the command zone, since casting it from their hand ignores the commander tax. Even if your opponent doesn't have to pay the tax, many commanders require a not insignificant mana investment that can definitely push them behind the rest of the pod. Where this card really shines is with its overload ability. For a total of 7, you can bounce everyone else's board except for the lands, and that will remove all of your opponent's commanders unless you have an Ashaya player in your pod. Like me. Along with everyone else's hard work, and then you can swing freely and most likely end the game. Hence, number 3. And at number 2, we have 2 cards that do basically the same thing for basically the same cost. So they're basically clumped together. Basically. Imprisoned in the Moon is an enchantment aura for 2 and a blue that can enchant a creature, land, or planeswalker. It says, enchanted permanent is a colorless land with tap to add 1 colorless mana and loses all other card types and abilities. Song of the Dryads is another enchantment aura for 2 and a green. It says, enchant permanent. Enchanted permanent is a colorless forest land. Both of these do essentially the same thing. They will take your opponent's commander and make it into a land, regardless if they're using a creature, planeswalker, vehicle, or spacecraft as their commander. Lands are some of the most difficult permanents to remove in Magic. So if you can lock a commander into a land, they will basically be stuck for a while. Board wipes won't even help them. If your opponents aren't running enchantment removal, they will be stuck. Now, what do all of the above spells have in common? The commander still exists in one form or another, either in the command zone or on the battlefield in an altered way or in your hand. But what if that wasn't the case? Number 1 is a card that I've mentioned a couple of times in previous videos, and it's perfect for commander removal. Oubliette is another enchantment. It costs 1 black and says, when Oubliette enters the battlefield, target creature phases out until Oubliette leaves the battlefield. Tap that creature as it phases in this way. Phasing isn't a common mechanic anymore, so the reminder text is very helpful. It says, auras and equipment phase out with it, which is cool. But the important part is, while permanents are phased out, they're treated as though they don't exist. They don't change zones, they can't go back to the command zone to be recast. They don't trigger any leave the battlefield effects or any enter the battlefield effects if they do come back. Board wipes don't see the phased out creatures. They literally do not exist in the eyes of the game. Hexproof or Shroud on your Oubliette, and don't worry about one of the 3 commanders you're up against. or copy it and take out a couple of them. So, there you have it, my top 10 spells to remove your opponent's commanders. You've heard from me, and now I'd like to hear from you. What are your go-to removal spells? How many times is too many times to remove somebody's commander? And what commander do you see that makes you feel the strongest desire to remove it immediately? Let me know in the comments below. Let's talk about it. And if you like this kind of video and you want to see more like it, subscribe, get notified about the next deck diagnosis. Thanks for spending this time with me. Now, clock out and go home.